Hello, it is 6 o'clock in Barbados, 5 o'clock in Jamaica, and 4 o'clock in Belize. It's also a very rainy and wet evening in Barbados. Hello to you wherever you are in the Caribbean, and welcome to this Facebook Live edition of Let's Talk Access, a social media program produced and presented by the UWI Open Campus. I'm your host, Cleveland Sam. Today, we focus on the work of the Social Work Training and Research Center and the Women and Development Department, WAND. Both are units in the Consortium for Social Development and Research within the UWI Open Campus. And my guests are Sarita Buchanan, and she's head of the Social Work Training and Research Center. Sarita, good evening.
Good evening, Cleveland. Great to be here.
Hi, right, good to have you again. We had you a couple of weeks ago on, along with your colleagues from the consortium. As well, tonight, our second guest is Taitu Heron, and she's head of the Women and Development Department at the Open Campus. Taitu, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Cleveland. Happy to be here as well. Hi, Sarita.
Right, so this is the diversity of the Open Campus, even though these two ladies are Jamaican. One is in Jamaica and one is in Barbados, yes?
That's correct.
All right, and as I said, we're going to be focusing on the work of these two units within the UWI Open Campus. And of course, you can be part of the conversation by sending your questions and comments to us in the chat on YouTube, Twitter, as well as Facebook. And of course, we want you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe and become a fan of us on Facebook. All right, and I want to also big up to my colleagues in the Open Campus Academy of Sport, and they have started their run series. It's called Open Campus Virtual Raw. And RAW stands for Run and Walk. Taitu, have you signed up as yet?
Actually, yes, I did. I signed up yesterday.
Awesome. Sarita, what about you?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, so you still have some time for the first event, which I think started on the 23rd and would run until the 28th, which is today. You have to run 1 mile, and you take a photograph or screenshot from your watch or your phone, and you submit that to the OCAS email to show that you have run or walk your mile, okay?
Sounds exciting.
I was just about to ask
so
you
that's just okay. That's just a plug for our colleagues from OCAS and to promote. You're gonna walk it?
This time around.
All right. So, as I said, the focus tonight, however, is on the Social Work Training and Research Center and the Women and Development units within the Open Campus. Sarita Buchanan, let's start with you. Can you tell us, first of all, what exactly is the Social Work Training and Research Center?
Thank you so much, Cleveland. I mean, I'm really so happy to be here. So first of all, I will start by saying we were formerly the Social Welfare Training Center. And I have to say that because I know we have a lot of colleagues out there who have studied with the center many years ago. I think we have maybe over 5,000 alumni on one of our programs. Our flagship program was a 4-month course in the Principles and Practice of Social Work. And so basically we have rebranded and changed our name because our mandate has expanded, and we have been doing a lot of work in different areas. In youth work, we do training and research in that area. Mental health is an area that we have taken on forcefully. We have research projects and a training program that is going on in that area. So when we talk about the Social Work Training and Research Center, we're really talking about anything to do with human development when we're looking at individuals, families, groups, communities. And, you know, I said the last time that social work is so diverse. And people may know things like sociology and psychology because those are really fancy names. But social work really is very similar to these professions, looking at human behavior and human development. And in particular, our focus is on social justice, human rights, and anything to do with social functioning of these various groups in society. Another key thing about social work is that we actually are looking at how individuals, groups, and families are impacted by their environments. So not just the physical environment, because that's one of the things, but also the economic environment that you're operating in, the social environment, and all those things. So if you think about social work, you can imagine the type of work that the Social Work Training and Research Center is doing in all these different areas. So you ask about who we are and what we do. We do research, training, projects, different outreach projects with young people and groups in all these different areas. And I'll say more about that later.
All right. And Taitu, I just want to bring you in here immediately because Sarita mentioned social justice. And I know from the perspective of the Women and Development Unit that social justice is also one of your areas of focus.
Yes, that's correct from the advocate or activist point of view, but we have actually shifted direction quite a bit since in the sense that WAND also rebranded in 2008. And we are, even though we originally started, of course, in 1978 with the extramural department, and we joined the consortium in 2008, I believe, or I'm not even, it's 2008 we joined UA Open Campus, and we joined the consortium after that. And we rebranded and reshaped the direction of WAND in 2018, and it's still women's center, but its focuses on centering women and their families in Caribbean development, taking an intersectional and inclusive approach, and that is where the social justice aspect of it comes in. We do community outreach and public discourse. We have technical partnerships in policy development, capacity building, and we also focus on applied research, particularly for evidence-based policy making, and also to support social justice movements in the Caribbean. We are currently working in 4 strategic areas: women, gender, and Caribbean economies, gender equity, diversity, and inclusion in applied research and advocacy,
right.
Women's rights and activism, and institutional strengthening and empowerment, and the latter one is more relating to working institutional strengthening and empowerment within the UE Open Campus environment. So, all right. That's kind of where we are right now. The online aspect.
Heavy stuff, guys. And of course, we will talk a lot more about specifics tied to as we go through the program tonight. So Rita, let me get back to you. You did mention that center was rebranded and so on. How are you impacting community service and emergency response and so on in Jamaica with your programs? Let's start first of all with community service.
Okay, so in terms of community service, and we have to be careful. Sometimes we use these terms and people are not sure what they mean. And I like to say community work and community development, because those are the areas that we look at. And basically what we try to do, and we don't necessarily go into communities to do work. That's not part of our mandate in terms of being a department of the University of the West Indies, but an important part of our civic function, we believe, and an important part of the university's work in looking at sustainability of communities is actually building communities by educating communities. And so some of the work that we do through international donor agencies, and we do through national and international agencies. So the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, we do some work with the EU so that we can actually mobilize leaders within communities. So sometimes we have communities that, and we do understand that in order for societies to develop, a key part is to develop individuals and communities as well. And so basically, what we try to do is there are different organizations within communities, there are different leaders within communities that we try to work with. We do research and we do training with them so that we can expand their skills and their work to be able to engage with their own communities. So we're not necessarily going into communities to work with the communities directly, but our role is based on how it is that we mobilize leaders within communities to be able to build their capacity to work more effectively in their communities.
That's a critical aspect.
It is very, very important. And what we also realize, I mean, we do lots of different training with and I know we'll talk later about a particular course that we have in community leadership and development, which was actually developed in partnership with Global Affairs Canada. So you'll realize in terms of our work, we do a lot of partnership with funding agencies, not just in Jamaica, not just in the Caribbean, but across the world. And we actually help to do whatever work that we need to do. Wherever we see the need, that is where we go, and we get the funding to actually do that. So in terms of communities, that's our mainstay in terms of working with communities.
Awesome stuff. I mean, I love the fact that, I mean, as an arm of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, that you are building capacity of community leaders, of youth and so on, who are supposed to go then and execute the work within the community.
That's right. And just to add though, Cleveland, one of the things we realize is that even in doing some of these short courses, what we end up doing is we create this sort of thirst for knowledge. And we've been doing this so many years, where these persons decide, and we're not just talking about youth now, we have students who are over 60, 70 years old, and they feel like they need to retool. We have persons who have probably been accountants or different areas they're all their life, and they feel their social responsibilities now to help their communities to grow and help other young people. And so they come and train with us. Sometimes when we train, for example, the young people, they also come on board and they want to do the degree programs that we have and even go a lot further. And so actually one of the things we're starting this project where we're actually trying to find out where are our alumni. I've traveled across the Caribbean and I've actually met persons who are permanent secretaries. And I would love to know where are other persons, and we may have some prime ministers out there who started with us on some of our community development programs, on some of our social work short courses, and are now using their skills across the world. And so we actually want to find out where are these persons, how can they share with us? And I think that is really important work.
Great stuff. Title Heron, I want to bring you in here as well, because I know when you spoke earlier, you spoke about research and evidence-based research. What type of research projects are you involved in with one at this moment?
We have 3 research projects right now. Well, 3.5. We finished one component early in the year, and this one is a research project that got support from the Equality and Justice Alliance out of the UK, and we did this project with ECAID in St. Lucia, and that one looked at it was a legislative review of abortion provisions in the Eastern Caribbean, and there was a bit of it that looked at Guyana as well. So that one was finished and it's available online, but we'll finish up the printing first. And the second component of that research project on abortion and the impact on its lives on women is looking at, specifically looking at abortion law reform in Barbados and St. Lucia. Barbados has abortion legal and St. Lucia has it legal on the specific conditions. So we're paying attention to how that impacts the lives of women who seek to have a termination. And that one is actually on its last legs now. So we'll be wrapping up with the report by the end of the year, I believe. The one that is upcoming looks at gender biases and gender and judicial decision-making in the Barbados court system. And that one is also a collaborative project with a legal institute coming out of the UK. And we are literally going to look at cases in the judicial system in Barbados that are gender related, whether it has to do with sexual violence, whether it has to do with custody of children, and pay attention to how gender plays out in these case studies. So that one is, we're literally doing some of the desk review now, and we should be able to start full speed ahead by around January with the rest of it. And the third one is in collaboration with the Barbados Red Cross Society. And that one is actually one I'm really excited about. Not that the other two are not exciting, but because this one is community-based, there's an element of community-based research that I'm a little bit more passionate about, and I'm sure Sarita will agree. So this particular one is in collaboration with the Barbados Red Cross Society, and we're going to look at the impact of COVID on family and livelihoods, how it affects family relations and the impact it has had on livelihoods. And we're focusing on two communities in Barbados. And we are, so those are the three research projects now. We have more in train, but they're in a much earlier stages, and we're not quite ready to announce those yet until we can definitely say that the financial support is there to do it.
Taitu, you have said so much. I want to zero in on one thing and put you on the spot a bit, because you are head of the Women and Development Department. And you did mention that the word gender, and particularly with respect to the research you're doing in the Barbados code system.
Right.
Does the work of one includes working with men as well? I mean, because your name suggests that it focuses on women. Can you just explain that for us?
Sure, okay. Women, well, we kept the old name. We didn't think it made sense to change. One, because it's a beautiful acronym, WAND, you know, and you can wave wands to make changes.
The magic wand.
And wave, and believe you me, sometimes this magic you have to work. You wave wands, you know how it is. You wave wands to make change and that sort of thing. So we decided not, and also institutionally, it really would have been a challenge to even contemplate changing the name. You know, it works well. What we did is to shift the focus on women and developmental women only, and we shifted it to women and their families, centering women and their families in Caribbean development. That allows us to still keep the original mandate, which is to focus on women, because we believe that women representing 50% of the population and having an gender imbalance in so many different aspects of development need to have its own clear space for research and advocacy and outreach and policy research and so on. And their families allows us to focus on other population groups, because women are attached, or women have family members. They have uncles, they have brothers, they have nephews, they have sons, and so on. And they have, you know, relatives or family members or partners who are LGBTQ or who are persons with disabilities. So and their families literally gives us a full room.
Right, it covers the whole gamut.
Exactly, but we're still pretty much clear on women first, and unapologetically so.
Right, because that's your mandate.
That's the mandate, yes.
Right, so I just wanted to get that out there. I mean,
sure. Actually, sure.
Right, and before I bring back Sarita, I just wanted to focus on something, and Sarita, you can jump in as well. But on Taitu, I know during the midst of COVID, we would have done another program where we focus on this. During the COVID period, I think particular groups of people were challenged. And I know in speaking with you at a different level, and as I said, we did arrange an online forum on some of this, that you, in your space, you saw specific challenges for women, especially women who were living in households where they were probably not the major breadwinners and so on. Tell us about, I mean, briefly, what are some of the challenges you saw during this period with women in the region? And well, you're based in Barbados, but I know you work with a lot of networks around the region.
Okay, well, a lot of the stakeholders that I do work with, you know, reported that women were under a tremendous amount of pressure in terms of losing their livelihoods, particularly some women who work in the tourism industry, some women who are self-employed, who have their own businesses, some women who earn their livelihoods from agriculture, for instance, who are vendors, who make jewelry. So they rely on contact a lot of the times to generate income. So with COVID, a lot of things had locked down. So that was the first thing. The second thing that also happened is and you would know this as well, but from your own vantage point, is that the the pressure on working from home for those who still were working and having their children at home at the same time, you know,
Yes.
balancing work and working from home and managing the children in a homeschool environment. And it was just very mentally stressful for a lot of persons. So, and based on, and then in addition to that, we also saw that from the global data and regional data as well, most of the women are the care workers on the front lines of COVID, and some
Right.
of them have children at home. So just the overall burden, so to speak, on
Yes.
women fell quite heavily.
So it was a double whammy
In a
position.
lot of
So
ways, yeah, in
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
ways. Yeah, and I think
Um,
children lose out, to me, even lose out even more than women as we're seeing things move along.
that's a really interesting perspective. And I know you did a program earlier on that with the Open Campus. Sarita, from where you are in terms of social work and interventions, how has this played out from your vantage point?
Well, actually, before I get to that, I actually wanted to add to what Taito was saying, because I mean, it's a real issue. And of course, you know, it's an area that I'm interested in. I'm doing some research as well, you know, in a more personal space. But also to add, what we're also seeing is that persons are, you don't have a situation where you also have your support. So there are families that had nannies or housekeepers that used to come in, and because of COVID and lack of contact. So you know, there are lots of different factors, and we even felt it at the center coming back to us in terms of with COVID. I think everybody has been impacted, but even from the perspective of women, what we found is that even in some of our class attendance or research that we're doing, women often were saying, okay, I'm not available, because there's so many different things up in the air, because home, market, and state in terms of where the responsibilities for care lie. It was a whole disruption. And I'm actually really excited. I mean, I'm not excited about the pandemic, but I'm excited about what this means for us, what it means about how we're going to work, what it means about the state's responsibility versus the home's responsibility, and how all of them are connected, and how before we haven't been talking about it. We spoke about it in silos, but now what we're having is the entire world talking about it. And actually realizing, Taito, that listen, even though we talk about it in these pockets, it's a greater impact on women that we didn't really realize. And so to me, I'm excited about the prospects about how policy will change, because the Social Work Training and Research Center looks a lot at policy as well, how it is that it will impact practice and impact work and impact women's lives and everybody. And so it's even at a center, going back to the work that we do, a lot of our work had to go online. And I tell you, Cleveland, very interesting times. You realize some of the deficiencies in terms of some of the households, some of the women and men, but in terms of the challenges that we have in balancing our lives while we're trying to study, in just trying to just be okay during the pandemic, because that's another important work that we're doing. What about our mental health? And that is actually going on right now in terms of the project that we're doing with JSIF and the EU about looking at mental health first responders. What we're trying to do with that program is actually train first responders. Other areas in the world, we have people called first responders. So we, in our system in Jamaica and in many parts of the Caribbean, what we have is the medical aspect of mental health. And so we have these systems that we've created, but the interconnectedness with the community, going back to the community, you know, we have the ministries of health who are actually training community members, okay? And their level of training is about just education, just talking with them. What we're trying to do is actually do a program where we're actually we're training mental health first responders. And the plan is to develop this program, not just for communities, but for organizations. We have organizations all over who don't, I mean, we are not equipped, then I should say, to actually help our employees and our workers in terms of their mental health, not just during COVID, but throughout. And so we want first responders in organizations as well. And so that's some of the work we're doing. We're doing some research. We've collected baseline for that before. And so what we're actually doing now is training a group of about 30 persons, and that is ongoing. We're hoping, we're developing the program. The manual has been created and we'll have that approved so that next year we can offer it to anybody who wants to become a first responder, not just in Jamaica, but across the Caribbean and across the world. If you want to be trained as a first responder for mental health in Jamaica or in any other parts of the Caribbean. So.
Wow, awesome stuff. Taito, you wanted to add something? Go ahead.
Yes, what Sarita told me about, what Sarita just shared was really fascinating because it also brought to mind in terms of how we decided to pivot in terms of COVID, because one of the things that got thrown up is care work, taking care of children. You can't parent, and the challenge of being a worker and being a parent, and in COVID when everything gets conflated. And even before COVID, you had a challenge with institutionalizing or having proper support of childcare by the state. In some, it varies across the region, but one of the things is that it really isn't consistent, and it has not been adequate to meet the increase in the labor participation of women. And even so, it also, in a sense, still impedes the way in which women work in the labor force and how they participate in the labor force, because of how much emphasis is placed, or that there's an unequal share of care work where women are concerned. So we have a public policy, a public dialogue coming up. We're doing the research on it now, looking at the relationship between gender inequality, care work, and paternity leave, because I don't know if you're aware, but some private sector companies, but the focus in this case is on Flow, has started a paternity leave policy for most of their offices throughout the entire Caribbean.
Well, kudos to them. I think
Right.
we are way behind in that regard, but
Yes.
kudos to the companies who are doing that.
Right.
And yeah.
So
awesome
there's a foot to, develop legislation or push for legislation on paternity leave throughout the region rather. So we're going to have a public forum on that, because I think if we allow men to participate more in care work, in care activities, it would take away some of the burden that's placed on women. And we don't want child rearing to be a burden. We want it to be something that is shared, that is enjoyed.
To be a responsibility and enjoy. And as a single father, I am certainly supporting
I know you
this.
would.
And I have been an advocate for paternity leave for the last 20 years, because I spent some time in another country where I saw this being very effective. And I think it has a lot of benefits for the children as well as for the mother, as you said, to give the mothers a break from time to time if the fathers can play a critical role in this particular part of the child rearing. All right, guys, good stuff. We have gone half an hour already, believe it or not. And if you're joining us now, if you're now joining us, you are watching Let's Talk Access, a social media program produced and presented by UWI Open Campus. And as I said, this evening, our focus is on the Social Work Training and Research Center, as well as the Women and Development Department of the Open Campus. Sarita, I know you mentioned some of the research projects that you're doing in response to Taito's response earlier, but what are some of the other projects you're doing now in terms of research before we get into your programs?
Okay.
What are some of the research projects?
So I mentioned earlier the Mental Health First Responders Project, which is near and dear to my heart as someone who has actually worked in mental health for a number of years in the institutional setting as a clinical social worker. But also we are doing projects in youth development. So what we are doing with that, we just actually completed, I should say, what we call the Real Me program. And that was a program that we did in 3 schools, in 3 inner city communities in Jamaica. And we did a program that looked at their wellness in different areas. So we looked at relational wellness. So the Real Me is an acronym. Education, we looked at lifestyle, so their physical and mental and emotional health, mental health. And so we looked at the economic, because we also taught in terms of budgeting. So we're looking at the whole youth. And what we basically did with that project, we did, again, when we think about the center, we have to think about, and Taitu mentioned earlier, the type of work that we do, it's not just research for the sake of research. So anything that we're doing, we are collecting data, we're looking at individuals, we are doing social engagement, we are helping the population that we're working with. And then we're also ensuring that we're creating the education and the tools to develop individuals. So it's a whole gamut of different things. When we say we're doing research, we're doing action research, because it should be doing something for the populations that we're working with while we're collecting information. So that Real Need project was funded, and we actually collected information, and we're working on some publication as it relates to that. But we looked at youth, the stage that they're at, how it is that their own elements of wellness have been impacted and improved upon. How we actually did some mentorship with them. We had different persons, young people, because it wasn't about us, because of course, they were a part of the program so much so that they were sharing who do they want to come and talk to them. And we discussed it. Why would you want this person to speak to you? And so we had different persons from celebrities, like we like to say, come in and speak to them. But we had to ensure that they were connected so much so that they were bringing the right message. And so we really had some wonderful sessions. One of the important things that we did with them as well, we looked at, in the economic aspects of the program, we looked at different types of professions outside of the traditional professions. So we had filmmakers in Jamaica come in, and we had somebody, I don't remember which country, but in a part of the region, who came and spoke to them. Women, they saw women, they saw young people like themselves, and they were engaged. Because then we wanted them to say, listen, there are many different areas that you can go into. If you feel like you're not excelling in one area, maybe you need to look at another one. And so we kind of used the opportunity to empower them while we're collecting data in terms of where they were, in terms of their own esteem, because that was one of the targets of the program, in terms of building their own self-efficacy, building their own ability to believe in themselves. So that project in and of itself was a whole bunch of different things together. What we have done also, but the main project we're working on is the mental health first responders project right now. We have completed other youth projects, like the evaluation of the National Youth Service and the CAP and NYS program that we have in Jamaica. CAP is Career Advancement Program. So again, we're looking at young people. What stage are they at? How can we improve where they're at? How are these programs that the government has working for young people? And so again, our mandate is looking at young people, how we can look at their situation where they are and improve their outcomes for their adult lives, and helping them to make decisions that will, put them on a right path moving forward. And so those are some of the projects and the research that we have working on right now. And maybe forgetting something else, but that's what those are.
Thank you so much, Sharita. I'm a mouthful. Taitu, you have a supporter in Belize. One comment coming in so far via our Facebook page said, I would like a legislative review on mental health care in the Caribbean, Belize to be specific. So I guess that's for both Taitu and Sarita, actually.
Let me talk to her about something that we just did. I hope she's listening. He or she, with whichever one, male or female. I respond to that. WAND wasn't directly involved in the research, but the project that we had done, the abortion research in, that project was a regional project. And there was a review done on mental health legislation. I don't recall if it included Belize, but I'm almost certain that it included all of the states, the member states of the OECS. And that study was done by Richie Maitland. The person can contact me. I have a copy of it at my office. It's available electronically, or if not, they can also look on the Facebook page of ECADE, or they can, as I said, they can also contact me. And that was actually done in terms of reviewing the current mental health legislation and paying attention to where the deficiencies are, and the areas of discrimination, because as you know, our tradition of mental health, unfortunately, is full of colonial baggage.
Yeah.
So, but that is there.
That's a whole new program on its own.
Completely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
Caesar, thank you so much for all that information and the great work you're doing. And that led me to another question really for you. So you are based in Jamaica at the Mona campus as part of the UW Open campus. And most of the work you do right now is related to Jamaica. But let's say a ministry of health or welfare in another Caribbean country wants to do some of this, want you to do some of this. Are they accessible? Are your service accessible to them?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know I was mentioning Jamaica a lot, and it's because what we try to do is sometimes it's a limitation of funding, and so we try to do pilot work in Jamaica. But even over the summer, we had clients working with across the world. We had persons doing training within the US, Germany, and different places as well. So if a ministry reaches out to us and they want to do research in any particular area, we have done work. We're actually trying to bring in Montserrat in this mental health program that we're trying to work on right now. But definitely reach out to us. We are definitely open to bringing persons on to do whether training, whether do research in particular areas. And just going back to that comment from the person in Belize, you know, mental health policy, I mean, Title mentioned in terms of the colonial aspect of it, but there are also some key things that we have developed in terms of culture in the Caribbean that have continued to pervade the type of work that we're able to produce. And mental health policy needs to be worked on from the level of starting even with the community, because this idea of stigma is a big one. So we talk about mental health policy. A lot of times policy is pushed by the masses, by the people themselves who see that, listen, there's something wrong here. And sometimes if we educate the population about how it is that mental health should be, what it is that we should be looking at, sometimes you can have that, you know, power pushing from the bottom up and get that sort of pressure on different governments across the region to actually look at their policy. Because sometimes I think that as a people, as a Caribbean people, we're just kind of laid back. So the sort of advocacy work and the sort of push that we need to have, understanding how policies actually impact our practice, is something that is very important. So in the training that we're doing now, we're talking to these community persons, and even just having that sort of engagement, they are learning so much that, oh, I remember one person said, oh, we have a mental health policy. So it's about the education too, from the ground up, understanding that the stigma doesn't just pull out of the air, that these things are all tied to different things. So I believe the education, even at the grassroots level, coming up into organization, in schools all over, then we can actually look at some of that work at the macro level.
Good stuff. Oh man, wow. Can't believe 40 minutes has gone already. We have not even touched on your programs as yet, Sarita. So let's do that now. So you offer a few courses, and you did mention that there is a course that you are known for because it was there from a very long time. Just run us through the courses that you offer at the center, and then we can take them individually and interrogate them a bit.
Okay, so I will say quickly, Cleveland, that that 4-month course, we still have persons who ask about it, and we're willing to offer it. But the reality is, we just need to have you know, I like to use the word critical mass, but a good group of persons to be able to offer that program. And so we have to say to persons, when you call, listen, yes, we can still offer that program to you. And especially now that we are looking more online with some of these programs that we have done face-to-face for a very long time. I mean, there is benefit in that as well, because we're having to revamp a lot of things, Cleveland, even the practicum. How do you do practice online? And some of the practitioners across the region are having those challenges. Those are some of the things we're looking at, because we don't want to shortchange students. Social work is very practice-oriented. And so we're trying to assimilate different things so we can offer those sort of things to persons. So just to say that the 4-month course is also still there. We haven't thrown it away. It's our
and what's the name of it again?
The 4-month course in the Principles and Practice of Social Work.
Principles and Practice of Social Work.
That's correct, right.
Yes.
And across the region, a lot of persons, you talk about the work in the region, a lot of persons in the Eastern Caribbean have done that program. As I said, whenever I visit, I meet at least 1 or 2 persons who have done that program. What we also have, which is kind of a spin-off from the 4-month course, we have persons who are in different areas and they want to learn about social work. We've had judges come who are heads of family court. We've had persons who work with the police all over who want to learn more how to engage with individuals, how to be able to respond to particular social needs or social problems from a more informed standpoint. And so we have a shorter program called the 10-week course in the Principles and I think it's Principles and Practice of Social Work as well. I might be wrong with that, but I need to, but it's a 10-week course in social work, in introductory social work, my apologies.
Introductory social work, right.
Introductory social work. So what it does is actually gives some of those key areas that are taught globally in social work, and it kind of gives persons a taste. So whether you are trying to expand in social work or you are in a totally different profession. So you might be a marketing manager, Cleveland, and
okay then.
We have teachers, we have nurses, we have different persons. And when they're working with their client systems, they realize that they need particular skills of engagement. And so this is a program for persons at any level. If you want to learn about social work and you either have a degree already, you don't want to do another degree, or you don't yet have a degree and you want to find out, is social work for me? That's a great program to start with. We also have the mental health first responders course that I spoke at length about earlier. And that program will actually teach you about mental health. It will address issues of culture and stigma. It is also one of the important things that that program does. It looks at, I know in the North America and other places, they talk about QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer. So we're not training persons to go out there and try to work with mental illness or anything. The program is about mental health, which means that, guess what? We all exist on that, Cleveland. We all have mental health challenges.
We all have mental health challenges. My grandmother used to say that. My grandmother used to say that there are more of them outside than they are inside. Yeah.
Yes. And Cleveland, what we're trying to do is that we're teaching in that program, we're talking about what we call the mental health spectrum. And on that program, what we're trying to say to persons, if you're having a bad day, in other parts of the world, they have something called a mental health day. And that mental health day is about, Cleveland, you're having a challenge with something in your life, or you lost a loved one. And we have to understand that our mental health is impacted by all the different life situations we go through. Lose a loved one, you have a relationship fall apart, you go through grief. And so what we're teaching on that program is you should be able to identify these type of things. You're going to be working with community members or persons in your organization. And even from an HR perspective, you should say, this is not how Cleveland usually is. Cleveland, are you feeling okay? You need to go home today. You're not at your optimal, at a basic level. And also to understand when you see different things in your community at a level of, okay, this could be a mental illness. Who do I call? How do I respond to this? What do I do? So that's what that program is about. And then the other one, and that will be offered in the next academic year. We have the pilot being run right now. And then
is this a face-to-face? Sorry, the two programs you referred.
It is online.
It is, great. So people from anywhere in the world can access this program.
In the world has access to this program.
Could you say that again?
Anywhere in the world. If you're in South Africa and you want to come and train with us, we welcome you. It's wonderful. And the good thing about that, Cleveland, what that will do is it will actually bring up a spectrum of different perspectives. How is mental health in that country?
Yes.
How are some of the things? Because the core remains the same. Mental health, we're all human beings. We're all individuals. We experience some of the same things in our lives, and we all either have a family member or know a neighbor or somebody else.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So, I'm sorry, you realize I get very passionate about this because I've worked in
please be passionate. We are Let's Talk Access want the passion. We love to feel the passion.
I'm very passionate about it because I believe mental health is something that has not been given its due. I believe that it's something that we have not paid enough attention to. And so this program, I think, is important, it's timely, it's now, it's because of COVID, because everybody's talking about COVID. There are so many people, I saw research by the IDB, so many persons now, we are going to work and we're really not that well. And we think, oh, because another thing about in the Caribbean, when we talk about mental health, we always say, oh, you know, walk it off, or, you know, you're all right, have a drink. That is also another Caribbean thing.
Yeah,
and, you know,
some strong rum or Baileys.
Some rum, exactly. And so, you know, that's one of the other programs that I'm very excited that we're doing the pilot now, and that's available next year as well.
Okay.
For anybody who wants to do that program.
And Sarita, how can I register for this program? How can someone who is looking at this in Germany or in Spain register for this program?
Great. So we have our social media platforms, and you can get information from our platforms. The other thing is, what we do is we have an online form. And so you can email us at swtrc@open.ue.edu, and you get that information. You get the form, you apply, you get more information if you want via email, or you can call us at our offices, and we can let me just say the number, 876-927-2478. But the easiest way to contact us is via that email.
Email.
Information you need. And I just need to mention that last course, Cleveland, which is very important, that Community Leadership and Development Program that was developed in collaboration with Global Affairs Canada. And we also did an aspect with University of Kentucky. And so we have that program that is being offered. That's being offered right now. It's a semester-long program. If you want to learn to engage communities, if you're operating at the institutional level and you want to learn how to manage community organizations, we have 3 different programs, 12 courses. Each program is offered per semester, and you can do all 12 courses, and you get a different certificate to, you know, we want to say mastery at that level. So you have an certificate for those who want to do things. And that program has very interesting courses on entrepreneurship and community development. We have different things that looking at sustainability and communities, and a whole lot more.
Right. Are there any specific requirements for these programs? Because they're at the certificate level. What are the requirements?
So, you know, this is the exciting thing, Cleveland. It's another exciting thing. We look at the person, where they are, what their needs are. We look at, so for example, the Community Leadership and Development Program, we have different levels for that reason. At the advanced level, we ask that persons have a degree or that they have been working in communities for a number of years. But for the other programs that we have, you just need to be able to, you have a major interest in an area, be able to read at the college level or at the high school level, and we will take you up to the point that you are able to complete these courses. So it is very open. It's open to everyone at all levels, all these different programs. And because we believe in retooling and upskilling our workforce and our communities, that's one of the key things about what we do.
Right. And one question people are always concerned about when they hear about a program or certificate, how do you assess these people? Is it an exam or paper or coursework? How they assess?
I don't know why people always love to ask about exams.
Because again, as Titus said, it's a colonial thing. We grew up in an exam type culture.
Well, let me tell you, because for us, again, we're action oriented. We want to know that you're able to do the work. So it's not about multiple choice questions or answer this question. A lot of the work is practice oriented. There are practicums on most of these programs where you'll have a supervisor who says this person did very well. We have also case studies. So the assessment is pretty broad. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty dynamic. And so if you do these programs, don't look to say, okay, you're going to be swatting to respond to questions that you can Google online. It's not about that. We want to see that you're able to do the things that the objectives of the program set out to do. So it's varied. It's case studies. It's you do essays at some point, yes, and we do all kinds of different things on these programs to do the assessment. There may be one test or so possibly written, but most of the program is really about application, how it is that you're able to do that through a practicum, through case studies and through other means.
Well, there you go. For those persons who, you know, have an aversion to exams. Taitu, you wanted to come in? I saw you had put your mic on.
Oh, okay. Next, I can remember the point that I was going to raise. It was in relation to mental health, but I think the moment came.
Okay.
It's okay.
No problem, but I'll bring you in anyways. I know you're also working on some project. What was it, the OECS you said you were doing some work in the OECS countries?
Oh, we finished that one, actually.
Right, so that's finished and the report is
that one
available?
it's available. It's online.
Right.
It's on the CSDR, the website of the UA Open Campus CSDR. So you can just put in UA Open Campus CSDR and then it will come up there.
Right.
It is also accessible on, actually, let me take that back. I was going to say it's accessible on WAN's pages, but we're upgrading our online, our Facebook, our website pages now, so it's not
right.
It's not there. But check CSDR pages, and it can be found there.
All right. We have 8 minutes, guys. Taitu, I want you to tell us about the Pink Parliament Initiative.
Oh yes, it's a really great partnership that WAN has embarked on with 2 youth leaders in Barbados, Roshana Trim and Ronell King. Roshana is the project manager and Ronell is the project coordinator. WAN's role is as project advisor. And it's a really amazing girls empowerment initiative for girls 14 to 20 years old to bridge the political ambition gap of women participating in politics. As you know, it's about 7 men to every 3 women in terms of the imbalance of women who participate in politics, whether it's local government, whether it's in parliament, whether it's at the Senate level, at all levels of the political system. It's on average, it's 7 men to 3 women. So we want to, and some of the things that we have picked up in the research before Roshana and Ronell co-founded Pink Parliament is that it's not good. Getting into politics is not something that women see as a career option, as a way of contributing to the development and the democracies that they're from, to the development of their societies. So we wanted to focus on the younger age group. So essentially, that is really what it's about. It is a 6-month program. It's held at UE Open Campus every Sunday. And we have an application process. So Pink Parliament would have done that process over the summer. So we have a specific number of girls for over the next 6 months until March 8th, International Women's Day. And they're trained in various aspects. It's focusing basically on seeing themselves as leaders, learning how to advocate for themselves, some stuff on personal development, getting a background on the history of politics in the Caribbean and the role of women in the development of politics in the Caribbean. So it's a really wonderful initiative, and it is something that WAN is really glad that Open Campus can play a role in the initiative. This is the 2nd year. And while the program itself is very streamlined and specific to the girls who would have applied for it, we do have some outreach activities that are open to the general public, or I would just say youth in general. And let me just mention one that's coming up quickly. We have a set of online sessions, youth dialogues, with actually cross-country, so cross-country or cross-regional, if you want to call it that, youth dialogues, with persons who are already in the system, in the political system, in Parliament and so on. So our first conversation is actually going to be on November 15th, and that conversation will be with Senator, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Jamaica, Kamina Johnson-Smith. That's our first conversation with her. Great. And that one is going to be open to youth all over the region who want to join the conversation, even though it is.
And of course, it will be live here on Open Campus Facebook page,
Campus, absolutely.
YouTube and Twitter as well.
Exactly. So
right. You also have quickly, we have 5 minutes. You have the upcoming activity, 16 days of activism. You want to talk to us briefly about that?
Oh, right. Well, every year we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And it's something that we, in a sense, those who do work in women and gender and development are expected to focus on. What we try and do from one is to collaborate rather than to spearhead events for, managing resources and so on. So we have 3 things, all 3 are collaborative. The first 2 is a collaboration with Equality Bahamas, and it's a regional forum or regional session, I should say, for parents. It's a parenting workshop, and we're going to look at helping parents to navigate conflict with teenagers and helping parents to help their own teenagers to manage conflict, particularly as it relates to bullying, gender-based violence in schools, and those are the 2 main areas, but some other areas as well, but it is specifically for parents, and that one is going to be regional. The second one is specifically for teenagers, but also regional, also in collaboration with Equality Bahamas, and that one is looking at online safety, as well as navigating social media, managing conflict and harassment on social media, whether it's WhatsApp, Snapchat, TikTok, the entire minefield that teenagers nowadays have to navigate on social media. And not all of them are equipped to manage it. And depending on the kind of parent-child relationships that exist, the parents have no clue what's happening. So
it's a minefield. It is definitely a minefield.
So those are the 2. With Equality Bahamas. And then the third one is with SWTRC International here in Barbados. And that one is literally going to look at signs of abuse in relationships. And I'll leave it there. The dates are not confirmed. It's something we're definitely going to do, but the dates aren't confirmed. So I would say they should follow one on our Facebook pages on IG, and they'll get more information there. The Twitter handle.
Of course.
Twitter handle, let me just mention it quickly because I see the time going. The Twitter handle is not Twitter, the IG handle is at @WAND_UEOC, and for Facebook, of course, it's at WAND-UE. So they can get updated.
All right. Awesome. So I want to thank you 2 ladies so much for being here this evening. I mean, the time has gone so quickly. It was such an engaging and interesting, informative discussion. And Sarita, I want you, as part of your last word, to give us your email contact for persons or institutions who may be interested in utilizing your services or applying for any of your program. Your email contact.
Okay, our email is swtrc@open.uwi.edu. swtrc@open.uwi.edu. And we also are on Instagram. A lot of the information is there as well. UWI Open Campus, SWTRC, and on Facebook, Social Work Training and Research Center.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarita Buchanan, head of the Social Work Training and Research Center, and Taito Heron, who is the head of the Women and Development Unit at the UWI Open Campus. Thank you as well for joining us, as well as the team who made this program possible. Patrick Johnson, David Foster, Cherise Glasgow, who have been managing the technical things in the background and the questions and comments. Until next time, I am your host, Cleveland Sam. Goodbye.